Logic on G5 from Macintosh in combination with Pro Tools. And so we have both sides of HDDM and VST, so it's a good combination. Using a lot of the Logic plugins. They are very, very good plugins of Logic themselves. They created a very good drum machine called Ultrabeat. We're using a lot of very, very nice bass drums. And then, of course, we have a lot of Arturia stuff, which is my favorite is the Mini Moog, for example. It's a very, very good emulation of the Moog synthesizer. And all other stuff of cutting effects and reverbs, compressors and stuff.
We started to use the DX7 again just because of the noisy sound and all the noises that come with a bass sound, for example. That's very nice. We tried this one out again, and then there's this other DX that we have, another old one,
TX
which
81Z.
Yeah, somewhere in the basement. The MS-20 is always nice. We still use that very much for some special sweeps and stuff like that. Yeah, many of the Roland stuff we really use in the computer because it's just easier to handle. And the Moog, as he said, the Mini Moog that we have as an emulation.
But there's
That's
still a difference between the old ones and the emulations still. So especially with the DX7, so you have all these little strange sounds coming out of this machine, and it's not anymore there in the emulation. So, and on the other hand, it's sometimes better to use these original synth because sometimes you have the feeling that a lot of people have the same sounds because it's all available as emulations. And so we try to avoid that and try to find our own sounds with a different texture, perhaps also. It's the same with all these brilliant machines like Reactor. There are really, really brilliant sounds in it, but some of the sounds you know already because you've heard it so much on different records.
I guess generally you can say it's two different ways to approach. One is the songwriting way, where especially Walter sits at the keyboard and he just tries out chords or melodies, and then something comes along like this bass line from Body Language wasn't a bass line at all in the very beginning. It was played way up higher on the keyboard as a melody, and then you transposed it and took a different sound, and all of a sudden it was a bass line, this very melodic bass line. Then the other way is all trial and error, just trying out things with sounds. There's one specific track that you can take, this is called Trespass '06, which is the B-side of Nightfalls, where it just has this little sequence which is looped, but not straight on the beat. It's looped differently, and then we just tried out different effects and cut and paste everything, cut it around, and just, yeah, worked with it like this.
So sometimes what I do is when I don't have a clue what to do, I just, in my arrangement, I put all the tracks one level higher so that it plays wrong notes, let's say, you know, because the bass drum is no longer a bass drum, it's perhaps a bass. So just give the accident a chance, you know, so because from these accidents sometimes it develops brilliant ideas or something. You can work from that on, and so you throw the whole stuff away and just put out these little particular special thing you found by accident, you know, and from that little point you reconstruct everything, or you construct a new song. This is more interesting for me than just the normal songwriting, because it's very often the same, you know. You have a pad, you have a guitar, you have a bass, you know, but we're trying to find a way to present melodies in a different way or chords in a different way. The most interesting stuff is really developing by layers which you wouldn't play for me, because then you hear in a certain pad with the effects on it and a trigger or whatever, and then suddenly there is a layer from frequencies and you hear tones which you never played. It's just perhaps the frequency of the reverb which is connected to the original pad, and then you have these second dimension of the sound, and this is what is more interesting for us than this normal possibility to have a pad, a bass, a guitar, and everything was there already. And we try always by arrangement and by doing these cut up stuff with effects and stuff to find new sounds in combination with new arrangements. This is what interesting for us.
When the question is, how new must everything be? Of course, in the end, it all comes down to the emotion. What's always the most important thing for us is we want to bring across a certain emotion. And if it's just one sound, if it's just one bling that tells the story, or if it has to be a whole arrangement, that it can always be different. But that's the thing that we're looking after to to keep us going on, because of course the perfect song or the perfect track can be with a bass drum and a bass and one melody. This can be fine, but then it can also be the other way around, and it can be quite orchestrated. Also, that's something we're not limiting ourselves to. This, you know, in Berlin at the moment, the minimal thing is the big thing, but we're not limited to that. And many people see the label Get Physical and also the start of Booka Shade in this minimal scene, minimal style. But if you take, or if you listen to the records, it's far bigger, and especially the live show is far bigger. It's not minimal at all. The job of a producer for us should be to bring out the personality of the artist, not your own style. There's nothing more boring than when you listen to a record and you think, oh yeah, it sounds like the producer. It should sound like the artist or the person that brings out the record. Yeah, with us, with the other artists on Get Physical, I think it's pretty much the case that DJ T sounds like DJ T, Mandy sound like Mandy. They have two sides because it's two people. The bit more trancey melodic side and the very crazy, very 2010 orientated side. And
Science fiction disco.
Science fiction disco, yeah. And Chelonis is also different, mainly because of his voice. We don't feel like it's most of the times we don't feel like it's a Booka Shade track brought out by another person. When we started to play live, which was at the end of the year 2004, when the first album was finished, and we decided to actually take the whole thing to the road, we decided to not take, like, let's say, a laptop or two laptops and do a laptop act, but really rely on what we can do best, and this is also to play music as musicians. So what the setup looks like is we have 4 laptops running. One is running Ableton for some backing tracks. One is running his synthesizers that he plays live. One is playing my electronic drums, or I trigger the electronic drums with this laptop, which is also Logic with a battery program and loads of effects and stuff like that. And then there's a 4th PowerBook which runs the visuals, which we have run in sync with the music. That's also something we like. We also like this visual aspect of the show. And then we have, you know, mixing boards and even more keyboards and the vocoder. So it's quite a huge setup. But we deliberately chose this opposite to the very, very small setups that you could even put into a DJ booth and perform there. We need a big stage to perform. But we wanted this, and people really are attracted by this, and they really appreciate to see somebody really work the music. And if you watch us, you see what's going on, because we do a lot live. Whatever we can do with our 4 hands, we actually do. And, you know, trigger things here and there, and work with controllers and EQing, and of course the drum playing.
the first album was made without any live experience. We just sitting in the studio, really isolated. It was a winter time.
You don't have any friends.
No friends, exactly, and I think you can hear that in the music. No, it was really.
It was only December 24th that was really hard.
It was very intimate atmosphere. So and then we started with that album. We started to play live, and we saw, okay, we have to rearrange and reproduce every track, because and also we had the problem that the people who wanted to book us, they listened to the album and said, I can't think about that this works on a bigger stage and in front of a bigger audience. This is a listening album, so it's not really a punchy club album. So we reworked every track, and then out of these sessions we developed the Mandarin Girl and the body language. So it came really very natural, to the point that we saw, okay, we have this live experience now, and we see that certain things work different in clubs, and then it was natural that it came all together when we went back to the studio and started to produce the next album. So it was just the influence from the live playing.
We don't go out very much in Berlin because we travel so much, so we, you know, like some time at home or work in the studio. But generally speaking, of course, Berlin is amazing at the moment. It's extremely inspiring. There are so many people from everywhere in the world moving to Berlin, and I always say there's this, within a radius of, let's say, 2 kilometers, you have basically everybody, or many people who are relevant in electronic music. There's, I don't know, just Tief Schwarzer living around the corner, Richie Horting lives around the corner. Ricardo Villalobos isn't far away, and funny story always for people is, especially bookers love this story. If you go to a small club in Berlin, either on a Thursday or Wednesday or on a Sunday, it's very likely that you have behind the DJ desk, you have in one row, it really happened, you have Richie Horton, Ricardo Villalobos, Luciano, and some other people who came home,
perhaps.
Magda, anybody, who came home on a Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon from their gigs, and they don't want to stop, and then they go to a small club and just continue. And the bookers, and I always tell to bookers, okay, this is a booking worth, I don't know,
minimum
40,000 euros or whatever, 50,000 euros. It's just there for free. You just go there. Sometimes you don't even have to pay entrance fee. You just listen to this music, and this is special for Berlin, I think.
When we started to do the label, it was mainly, there were two really important acts for us. I think for all of us, it was Chicken Lips, because they had a completely new approach, and did a new sound which was working in clubs, which was very disco orientated and normal, let's say, organic instruments and stuff. And then there was another one called Metro Area. They did this very disco orientated style as well, and very 80s. So we liked that, and I think the first records we did is based on the sound that they did at that time. And then there was a change of sound, so the disco was a little aside, and then the electro house stuff was coming. And so then there's another big name, important name for me, was James Holden, because for me he was the first who did new arrangements, and he combined this, let's say, alternative rock psychedelic stuff. He combined that with these minimal techno house style, and the way he worked with effects and with atmospheres was, I think it's still really amazing, because he's one of these guys who did completely new arrangements. It's no longer a track or something, it's a journey. I don't know how he can handle these different styles of compositions in one track, but it still sounds totally natural. And the same is with Trentemøller. He did that on the last album as well. and he also he comes a little more from the musical side for me, so he's more a composer, as James Holden. But both are really, really big influences for us, I think. And then, of course, we like Hardship. Hardship was the Warning album. It's really, really good songwriting, and
And then comes the old school, like, I mean, still
Depeche Mode, yes.
still inspiring.
They did everything in the right way. So if you want to do a band and you want to have a vision how to do something, then you just have to read the biography of Depeche Mode. I think even when they doing thoughts, it's good, you know. So they
They even made the right mistakes.
yeah, mistakes. This is the word I was looking for. So they're really, really good in presenting themselves and try to hold this independency, in combination, of course, with Danny Miller from Mute Records. But the way they did this musical development from a synthy pop band, very naive smash hits, boy group stuff, to this now, let's say, big rock show, electronic rock act. This development is really amazing how they did this over 25 years. And I always tell these people that it's these young producers that it's good to step a little back and to listen really objective. Try to listen to the music very objective, and to not to be happy with the first notes they play, or really to reduce the stuff and to find really, as this director told me, to find really the right three notes, and not to think if something sounds okay, then directly send it to a record company, and try to release it, because there are so many records on the market, and I'm really sure that it's sometimes really better to do less, and to concentrate more on a few songs than to do these remixes and tracks and stuff, you know, hundreds a month, you know. So nobody wants to listen to for me to a DJ or a producer who's releasing every week a record, you know. It's makes no sense, because the quality is it's for me it's not possible to do every week a big tune, you know. And why releasing a normal track which is you can play as a DJ, but it's not really a must, you know. So that's what I can say to young producers, just to think about what they're doing and to find the special sound, their sound.
Also, sometimes when we when we listen to demos, or when we find a person that we find interesting, because we feel a lot about electronic music must be about personality, because a track can be a track, and that's fine, but we try to search for what's behind the track, who's the person behind the track, and is it somebody who has something to say. And sometimes we have somebody we find interesting, and we tell them, okay, these are the tracks you have, but continue, work on it. And sometimes people tend to be satisfied at a very early stage, and they don't want to work hard enough on what they do. It's probably also because in the old days, when you had a bass guitar, or you wanted to play bass guitar or guitar, you actually had to practice. You had to learn that instrument. Nowadays, with the computer, you have so many sounds already there. You even have fixed arrangements you can buy, and you just have to put together in a different way, and it already sounds good. But that's not the point. That's not the essence of music. And many people we feel are just too satisfied and at a too early stage, and they don't want to push it really hard. Also, for a career in music, it doesn't have to be electronic music. It can also be a rock band. You have to want this, and it's not so easy. Also, when we go on tour, it's really hard work. It's not so much pleasure. It's really exhausting, and I sometimes have the feeling that people want to have success, but they don't want to work for it. and how should this go? It's like in any other job. If you want to be good, if you want to achieve something, you have to be good and you have to work for this. So yeah, reflect what you do, work hard, listen to other people's well, not advice, but if you get feedback on your tracks, I sometimes feel if you give a negative feedback to people, they say, "Oh yeah, but okay, I play it to somebody else who thinks it's good," and they don't think about what is said. And we always, when somebody didn't like our music, and there were many people in the past who didn't like our music, whatever it was, we always sat there and said, "Yeah, but okay, what is it that he doesn't like, and is it just the wrong person? Doesn't he like the music, or is there something inside that's really not good?" And that's what Walter also said earlier on. What is the essence? Always find the essence, and probably the essence wasn't good, and this people tell you, and some people that we get demos from, they just don't want to listen to this. They don't want to really take this feedback from people.
And very important is the consumer, or the people in the clubs. They are not stupid. They feel directly if it comes from the heart or not. And if you try to sound like somebody else, which is not perhaps really your, perhaps not your real feeling, which feels constructed, yeah. So the consumer will feel it directly. So consumer is not stupid. It's very important. This is what the major industry wants to tell you, that the consumer is stupid. Just do big advertisement and spend £500,000 in something, and in a band, and they will buy shit. It's not the truth.